Hari ini tanggal 15 November 2020 merupakan hari yang bersejarah yang akan dikenang oleh 2,2 miliar penduduk dari 15 negara peserta perundingan Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership atau yang disebut RCEP.
What do we know about the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership?
The world's largest trade agreement, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, comprising of roughly half of the world's population, a quarter of the world's exports, and a third of the world's output, has been signed on 15th of November 2020.
The agreement is due to create a single cohesive region-wide set of rules and regulatory provisions of various trade issues for Asia, setting a benchmark for future trade deals. For Indonesia and Southeast Asia, this would be key to post-pandemic recovery and to finally seize the opportunity of the so-called Asian century.
After 8 years of difficult negotiations, 10 Southeast Asian countries, along with 5 of their dialogue partners, China, Australia, Japan, South Korea, and New Zealand, agreed to set the course to further formalize Asia's economic integration.
Presiden menyambut baik penandatanganan RCEP karena setelah negosiasi selama 8 tahun akhirnya kita bisa menandatangani dan Presiden menyampaikan integrasi ekonomi ini harus membawa manfaat bagi rakyat semua negara RCEP. Presiden juga mendorong agar ASEAN terus memainkan peran agar dapat berkontribusi dalam menjaga perdamaian dan stabilitas kawasan.
RCEP is a culmination of the various free trade agreements between the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, and its dialogue partners. It is created in the hope of simplifying these trade agreements and to prevent discriminatory and thus promote more balanced trade policies between the members of these different ASEAN FTAs through addressing the technical behind border issues like differences in standards, regulations, testing, and certification requirements. An ASEAN-led initiative, RCEP was first discussed at the 19th ASEAN Summit held in Bali in 2011. 2 years later, negotiations started in 2013. Following 31 rounds of negotiations, the agreement was finally agreed on 15th of November 2020. India's withdrawal over the last rounds of the negotiations, while initially put a dent on the value of the trade agreement, has not entirely eclipsed the success of the achievement and the potential it could entail for the region. The main features of RCEP include its promise of the removal of tariff for up to 90% of goods, as well as the inclusion of new areas of agreements between these countries, such as e-commerce, as part of its provisions.
Based on the joint study made by Ministry of Trade and the Ministry of Finance, some of the sectors that will bring a lot of advantages are gas, electronic, woods, manufacturing, including jewelry, musical instrument sector, and plantations, coffee, cocoa, and rubber, and paper. And another study conducted by Bank of Indonesia indicated that sector with high competitiveness and also trade surplus such as food and beverages, tobacco, woods and metal mining are the sector that will bring a lot of advantages from the RCEP.
Its main highlight is the establishment of a single common set of rules of origin to access tariff preferences for trade with RCEP members. This will make it easier for businesses to fulfill their obligations in their quest for export, ease the adaptation for small-medium enterprises to access markets abroad, and promote the use of regional distribution hubs. All of these are done through the simplification of certification, reduction of export cost, and general ease of goods mobilization. The system's way in attaching the value of products to their original exporters will likely encourage good specialization between countries due to better export source accountability, which will later create better complementary and incentive for trades from within RCEP members, further integrating the region. RCEP provisions, such as the rules in customs procedures, will promote better equality, transparency, and technical standards in the access and treatments of suppliers between countries. It also opens further technical consultations on non-tariff measures that remains negatively impacting trade. Specific sections on e-commerce, intellectual property protection, SMEs, and at-border trade barriers can be considered groundbreaking upon considering its absence from previous trade agreements between some RCEP members. The agreement has set the stage for the arrival of a single, cohesive, region-wide set of rules and regulatory provisions of trade issues for a trading bloc that covers 2.2 billion people and a total GDP of $26.2 trillion. It was immediately hailed as a triumph for the region's persistent and subtle diplomatic efforts and a benchmark for future trade deals. While RCEP has been criticized for its lack of ambition on liberalization and limits in the protection of labor rights, intellectual property, and environmental standards, it was generally seen as a key achievement, noting the lack of existing free trade agreements between its key members. Indonesia had been the key initiator of RCEP, notably during Indonesia's ASEAN chairmanship in 2011. The success of the RCEP can be attributed to the resilience of Indonesian officials in the Ministry of Trade in pushing the middle grounds between countries, some of which were preparing for integration to one another for the first time.
We must create a more friendly investment climate to increase the investment sectors. And the government of Indonesia also has been developing policy adjustment currently and also action plans in optimizing the RCEP implementations. Currently, we are doing the ratification process. Hopefully, the ratification will be finalized in the first quarter 2022. It means in March fully, and then we also targeted to implement RCEP by the end of the first semester this year.
While the strategic benefit of the RCEP for Indonesia will likely be long-term in nature, the agreement will foreseeably benefit Indonesia in at least two things. First, RCEP will put Indonesia and Southeast Asia in prime position to increase trade, integration to regional value chain, and further attract investments from the 5 other countries. This is now even more important in the context of post-pandemic economic recovery and the disruption in the global trading system that requires the re-promotion of openness, inclusivity, and multilateralism. Second, RCEP re-emphasizes the role of ASEAN as the regional hub for regional integration, as well as its promotion of open regionalism. Domestically, while competitiveness remains a homework, tapping into the decrease in tariff rates, simplified paperwork, and increased incentives for intra-investment in the region will only benefit Indonesia businesses and help them integrate to regional and global value chain, provided that they seize these opportunities. But one thing is clear, as one of the largest economies in the world and the largest economy in ASEAN, Indonesia cannot shy away from friendly economic competition with its ASEAN neighbors. For Southeast Asia, RCEP symbolizes a nuanced form of integration that caters to different characteristics among the countries. The agreement elevated collective regional developments to sustain regional trade, whilst also waiting for the different degree of domestic reforms of individual countries.
In the RCEP context, all the member states, all the countries inside, they are needing each other. They are completing each other, and they can cooperate to increase their economy and then to achieve their main objective or purposes, which is actually to create economic convergence within the member states.
RCEP can further facilitate economic interdependence by strengthening existing supply chains in the region. The Indo-Pacific region, specifically Southeast Asia and Northeast Asia, is home to various supply chains of manufacturing products, for example, electronics. In the past, the rules of origin governing these products are different for each member countries, even among ASEAN member states. For example, a car manufacturer in Jakarta exporting to Japan and Malaysia has to produce different certificates of rules of origin to export to Japan and Malaysia separately. Now, RCEP unifies these different certificates into a single RCEP certificate, so that Jakarta manufacturer only needs to produce one certificate to export to both Japan and Malaysia. So RCEP will further turbocharge these manufacturing supply chains in the region, and by strengthening supply chains, RCEP will further facilitate interdependence among member countries.
Not only does RCEP act as a boost on multilateralism and free trade, it also promotes closer interdependence between the signatories. Traditionally, this would mean less hostility among one another. This is particularly important, noting that the agreement is the first one to bring together a regional trade deal between China, Japan, and South Korea, which had been deemed unlikely without the role of third parties like ASEAN.
In the RCEP, because it consists also Australia and New Zealand, so and then India before, so it's create a balance, and then it makes them become interdependent, and this is parallel with or fit with the ASEAN framework, which is the open kind of organization. Open mean ASEAN open to other member states, that potentially giving ASEAN investment inflows. So together with the ASEAN concept of +6 and then +5 at the end, the RCEP, that's a good balance, fit with the open regionalism, but also it also fulfill the convergence, economic convergence purposes.
In my opinion, the very nature of RCEP will help prevent domination of one country over the other. The membership of RCEP consists of almost all the major economic players in the region. The economic weight of each big member countries will balance each other out, so this can prevent domination of one big country over the other. Of course, the major exception here is India. New Delhi originally was a negotiating member of RCEP before it pulled out in the last negotiating round in Bangkok. However, hopefully there is some negotiating avenue for further cooperation between ASEAN and India.
Well, the agreement consolidates 4 FTAs in place between ASEAN and ASEAN partners. That we create more certainty and also harmonization of the trade rules, trade facilitation rules amongst the members. And secondly, RCEP agreement can also increase, enhance, export, and also strengthen the regional and global value chains.
While China's perceived dominance in the RCEP has been a source of concern, especially after India's withdrawal, the benefits for Southeast Asia in attracting larger share and deepening their specialization in the global value chain would likely exceed such risk.
Theoretically, in regional economic integrations, it starts from the FTA, free trade area, and then move to the custom union / investment creations. And it's also called economic community at the context of open regional and soft regional like Southeast Asia. It's called economic community. So we adopt the terms of economic community instead of custom union. But then we move into common market, which is fully integrated or fully integration in the real sector before we move to the financial sector integrations. And this custom union is the longest, according to the European Union experience, is the longest period. So we need, or ASEAN need, not only its member states, but also enlargement. So the RCEP in that context, it helps ASEAN to achieve the economic community. So the RCEP become a building block actually for the economic community in ASEAN.
RCEP definitely will benefit the 2025 ASEAN economic community since it supports ASEAN's economic integration. RCEP is the culmination of efforts for an ASEAN-centered economic architecture in the region. ASEAN has a free trade agreement with all the other members of RCEP: China, Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. Negotiations for RCEP first started because ASEAN, under the chairmanship of Indonesia, wished to integrate all of these free trade agreements into a single trade agreement under ASEAN. Thus, RCEP will make ASEAN the center of gravity for the regional economic architecture.
In fact, RCEP could be assessed as an opportunity for ASEAN to deter big country domination and bind them in small middle power norms.